You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Number one, the most likely upset opportunity for the Orange in 2025 is Georgia Tech. Syracuse goes to Georgia Tech on October 25th. They are coming off a very strong 7-5 season. The reason why I say very strong 7-5 is because on the surface, a 7-5 season, I mean, you're a bowl team. That's pretty nice. You're not terrible, but also not very good, quite frankly. 7-5 is just eh. But if you look at Georgia Tech's schedule from a year ago, 7-5 is actually a very, very strong record for them. So I have a lot of respect for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. They are led by third-year head coach Brent Key, and they returned quarterback Haynes King. And for those that are unaware, my comparison for Haynes King is that he is the college football version of Josh Allen. He kind of plays like Josh Allen. He's definitely not as good as Josh Allen. Don't get me wrong on that part. But if you're looking for a similar play style, that's how Haynes King kind of plays. He's a big guy, 6'3", 200 pounds, and he is the type of quarterback that can run through you. He's not someone that's necessarily, I mean, he can go around you, but this is someone who can bulldoze his way through defenders. Very similar to Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills and how he runs the football, right? That's why the comparison is kind of there. They also returned their star running back over the past couple of seasons in Jamal Haynes. A little bit on the smaller end. I believe on College Reference, he's listed at 5'9", 175 pounds, but ultra quick, ultra fast. You do not want to see him with any green grass in front because he can run around you. And hey, once he gets ahead of you, good luck catching Jamal Haynes. Last year, he had about 900 yards on the ground, but nearly 6 yards per carry. That is elite. For reference, I believe LaQuint Allen for Syracuse last year averaged about 4.5 yards per carry, and that's a pretty solid total, 4.5 yards per carry. Jamal Haynes, 6 yards a carry last year for Georgia Tech. There's a reason why I'm talking mostly about their quarterback and their running back and their head coach in Brent Key. Now, Syracuse last season, they beat Georgia Tech, albeit that was a home game. Georgia Tech is not a complicated team. They're not. They're not this sort of team that is going to run anything really that's complex on offense. Sure, they might have a trick play or two, just like any other team in college football, but they're a very simple team. But they're good. They want to run the football down your throat. So the key to beating Georgia Tech, because you know what they want to do, which is run the football, and they're not shy about it, is you want to get ahead of them. If you get ahead of Georgia Tech, which is what Syracuse did last year, going up multiple scores in the second quarter of that game, you all of a sudden force Georgia Tech to do something that they really don't want to do on offense, which is become a pass-first team. It's not that Haynes King can't throw the football. He's got a nice arm. He completed over 70% of his passes last season. That, I believe, led the ACC a year ago. So he can certainly throw the football. But it's almost like, look, you tip your cap if you get ahead of Georgia Tech and they beat you because Haynes King goes off with his arm and he throws for 300-400 yards, multiple scores. You just tip your cap and you say, you know what? Georgia Tech is just a really good team and they beat Syracuse on that particular day. What you don't want to have happen is Georgia Tech possibly running for 200-300 yards, because that's what they're capable of doing to almost every team in the country. So overall with Syracuse and Georgia Tech, if you can get ahead of them, your chances of an upset go significantly up. Whereas if you're playing from behind and their ability to run the football, good luck going into Georgia Tech and winning that game. But I do think that Syracuse could potentially slow down their run game enough to be able to win at Georgia Tech. Won't be easy, but it's possible. That's why I'm listing them as the most likely upset candidate for Syracuse football. Number two, I can't wait for this fan base to find this podcast. Miami. And I think this kind of speaks to how tough Syracuse's schedule is, particularly on the road, that I think that Miami is one of their two best chances at an upset this season, because I do think that Miami is going to be a good team. Syracuse plays at Miami on November 8th. Hopefully by early November, it's not stupid hot down in South Florida. I grew up in South Florida, so I am aware that it can get pretty hot down there, even in early to mid-November. And for those that don't know, there's a reason why I'm mentioning the heat. Because Miami, now I'm not saying the University of Miami, but the people who designed the stadium, Hard Rock Stadium down in South Florida, they designed it so that the sun is facing the visitor sideline during afternoon games, making it much hotter to be on the visitor sideline versus the home sideline. It could be by about 20 to 30 degrees. It's a stark difference between being in the shade and being in the sun for the entirety of the game. That's why it's very difficult, particularly very early in the season, to go into Miami and win, because it's freaking hot down there. It is brutal. And meanwhile, in Miami, the whole game is sitting in the shade. So shout out to the people who designed Miami Hard Rock Stadium down there, because it's not fun being the road team in an afternoon game. But we don't know when the game is going to be played anyway. It's in November. They haven't scheduled the time yet. That's not going to happen for a little bit. But another reason, or aside from that, why Miami is one of the two likely chances for Syracuse to pull off a road upset. By the point of the year where Syracuse is going to play them in November, we'll know whether or not Carson Beck is Carson Beck. And by that, I mean, is he healthy? He is coming off elbow surgery to his throwing elbow. That is nothing to sneeze at, which is why on ACC Squad and why constantly on this channel I bring it up, because I want to see how Carson Beck is going to be throwing the football. How is he going to come back from elbow surgery? Maybe he's going to be really good. And I do think Carson Beck, when healthy, is the second best quarterback in the ACC. I'm just not sure health-wise how he's going to be. By November, we will certainly know how Carson Beck's elbow is holding up. But having said that, even Carson Beck at his best is not better than what Miami had a year ago, which is Cam Ward. Cam Ward was the number one pick in the NFL draft to Tennessee Titans, I should say, right? He was the ACC Player of the Year, 39 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. But so they don't have Cam Ward. Okay, fine. Carson Beck's still good, not Cam Ward. They should be better defensively. They have a new defensive coordinator in Corey Heatherman from Minnesota. And Minnesota last year was top 10 nationally in points allowed per game. But Minnesota didn't win a lot of games a year ago necessarily because, well, they weren't very good offensively. It had nothing to do with their defense. Their defense was definitely fine. I don't envision that Syracuse will be able to put up 42 against Miami like they did last season. And I don't think that Miami, not that they overlooked Syracuse a year ago, but certainly after last season, Miami is not going to overlook Syracuse this time around because they know that Syracuse can beat Miami, albeit that was a completely different Syracuse team as well. The bottom line is this. This is no disrespect to Georgia Tech. This is no disrespect to Miami. Two teams that I could see, if you eliminate Clemson from the picture, as the second and third best team in the ACC this upcoming season. I do think that these are two very, very good teams. But if you're asking me, hey, Jackson, Syracuse, can they pull off some upsets? Yeah, they can pull off some upsets. Where's the best chance of pulling off an upset? My answer is either at Georgia Tech or at Miami.